when they recognize that the things they like from their childhood are all because of Ronald Reagan.
This video acknowledges a really deep truth that I've been struggling with, and I'm sure a lot of other people have been too. The nature of corporate media as a source of joy and identity. What's the paradox? And here's something that might help, especially for millennials. It's basically the Reagan coalition destroying itself, acknowledging its own contradictions, and being unable to deal with it. And that is how a better world will be possible. It is capitalism destroying itself without anyone realizing it. And here's how. Yes, the goal was to have toy companies make a lot of money. And it's funny that their allies really had a problem with this, i.e., the religious types, because they knew. And they've known for like a century by that point, and even a century and a half now, that the real power is the control of the stories people tell. And what happened was, sure, you had all this toyetic stuff in the 80s, and some good stuff came out of it. Check out Bob Chipman, Movie Bob's video on the Transformers movie, which I've never seen the Transformers movie. I saw his review. It's the best work he ever did because he also touches upon this question. Take a look at this. Turmoil in the toy box. Maybe you've seen books like this. Maybe you've actually seen him be interviewed. But it kind of shows all these, religious guys freaking out at the toy industry. And of course, it didn't start with that. I would argue it really started with the Civil War with, what's his name? Anthony Comstock. He's the one who saw the dirtiness of the Union soldier. They need Jesus. Think about churning the song, John Brown's Body, to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. An earthy, practical force into feeling spiritual, where only really one line is about actually fighting the slavery, And from that experience, this Anthony Comstock basically took state power. He became the postmaster general, and he imposed cultural control. These were really all the censorship laws that come up from the 1870s, and they grew in power with every new art form and genre, from ragtime to jazz to rock to metal to cinema, horror films, the Hays Code, the Comics Code Authority, censorship. That's what this all comes down to. It's like, no, we must suppress human expression to preserve Christian morality. Oh, and in the 80s, we had this in the toy industry. In the 70s, with games, D&D. But it was every group that went through this. And what's really interesting is with Reagan, was he more of a Christian nationalist or was he more of a capitalist? I say he was much more of a capitalist. And the Christian nationalists, they were just fuel. They were food. They were useful idiots. And they were useful idiots specifically because of this. Because that coalition was much more interested in maximizing capital than serving the interests of the Jesus freaks, those who want to crush all cultural expression over the previous 100 years. That was Reagan's goal, to use the coalition, but ultimately the Christians were the junior partner. I know it seems like the other way around, but think about it. With these toys changing identity formation, it was a poison pill to evangelicalism. It essentially undermined their whole power because through capital maximization, the useful tools, the Bible, moral control, collapsed, was replaced with something better. Yes, objectively superior, even if it was in the service of capital, even if it was just to sell cheap plastic stuff. Easy stories, the stories to sell the cheap stuff. And yet, kids bought it. But here's where things get really interesting. Now, we're talking about Reagan. Let's go past Reagan. Let's go to his child, W. Bush, the early days of the internet. The kids who grew up on all this corporate media, they find community. And they make their own stuff. Fan art, fan fiction, fan stories, taking the corporate product for themselves and making it their own. I'm a 90s kid. I was born in 88, and Sonic was the big thing. OC, don't steal. But that's the best example that I can think of. I'm sure like anime people, Dragon Ball Z, Team 4 Star. With Sonic, you've got the Sonic Anime Games Expo. People making their own and making it better. Even the community I'm personally a part of, we're doing the exact same thing. And those are the historical forces. And those are what should give you joy and excitement, and you know the direction to take now. Basically, you encourage this fandom culture. And instead of trying to refight the 20th century forever, trying to fight the libertarians forever, because this is a libertarian victory. It's like, oh yeah, let people do what they want. Libertarians and socialists should get over themselves, stop trying to refight the 20th century forever, and find a synthesis. Like each doing different things. But the real political movement that's really dealing with these questions are the pirates, the pirate party. They are really going for the synthesis between libertarianism and socialism, even if they themselves don't think about it. They think about the cultural problems of the now, of the times in which we live now and the issues in which we live now, which is generally around intellectual property law. Because intellectual property law isn't just about who owns what and all the money. It's about who owns cultural ideas. Think about it. With Christian art, who owns the copyright on Jesus? Who owns the copyright on the Pieta? No one. People can just use it. And if we apply the same standard to this kind of stuff, think about it. A lot of the cultural products that we revere are from the late 20s to the early 40s. And over the next 15 years, they're all entering the public domain. That's just going to change everything. And that's probably why Disney's been buying up so much stuff, because they knew they need a new generation of IP. Well, you want to change the world? Look at IP law. Let's reduce it back from life of the author plus 70 to like 50 years max. That will change the world probably way more than any social revolution, manning the barricades, Vanguard Party, Mass Party, whatever. Most people aren't motivated by that. They're motivated by stories. And stories are the motivation. And stories are what ultimately destroyed the Reagan coalition, and they didn't even realize it. Because think about it. Think about what's happening now. Especially with, say, the tariffs really hurt the toy industry because it's a global industry. And I think that was always the plan. Because now the coalition is flipped. It's the Christians leading and the capitalists feeding them, rather than the other way around, as it was in the 80s. And of course, a lot of these religious types, like, they don't understand culture. They hate culture. And they're going to blow up everything. And how we're going to rebuild is from all of this people retaking a fandom culture for themselves through the public domain. And it's going to be amazing. Leftists got to get on this. Leftists have to hold their nose, talk to libertarians and pirates, and through this coalition, we'll be building that better world that we know is possible.